This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Something I've seen in the comment section that I agree with from a lot of Browns fans. You know, sometimes you just hear things from Browns fans who are a bit more dramatic than others, but this is something I've heard from a lot of Browns fans that I wouldn't consider dramatic, and it is that the vibes are off. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel it too. Something don't feel right with this Cleveland Browns team. That doesn't mean that something is wrong. It just means that there's something off about how we feel. It doesn't match how I think we should feel, but it's just how the fan base does. There's like a dissonance there that I find interesting. So what I want to do today, you know, instead of throwing a million stats at you, I want to talk about that. I want to address that feeling in there and talk about why I think that might be the case. I think there's a bunch of reasons, but I don't think it's one reason. You know what I mean? So first things first, I think the thing that needs to be addressed is the last 4 times we've watched the Cleveland Browns play, whether the game mattered or not, we've watched the Cleveland Browns lose, right? Cincinnati, week 18, the Browns lost. The wild card game, the Browns lost in pretty embarrassing fashion. And then the 2 preseason games have been blowout losses by the Cleveland Browns. And losing, but also losing in blowout fashion, which the Browns have done the last 4 times they played football. And again, 3 of those games didn't matter, but it doesn't matter when it comes to how you feel, because there's something about watching your team lose, no matter if it's the preseason, no matter if it's a meaningless regular season game because you've already clinched the playoffs, no matter if it's the playoffs. Something in your head, even when you know the Browns aren't supposed to win this one. Yeah, we got a ton of injuries. It makes sense that the Browns lost in the wild card. Even when that's the case, getting blown out feels bad. No matter what. When you're in the preseason, getting blown out stinks. When you're in the regular season and the game doesn't matter, getting blown out stinks. And especially when you're in the playoffs, getting blown out stinks. The reason I think Browns fans have a bad taste in their mouth is because the last 4 times they watched the Cleveland Browns, they've watched blowouts. That's why you have a bad taste. Somebody left the interesting comment. They haven't felt this bad since like the Hugh Jackson Browns. And it's not because the Browns roster is as bad as that one. Like, we're not even close to the Browns roster is so much better. The Browns backups are so much better than like the 2015 Cleveland Browns or something like that. It's not that the team stinks, it's that the taste in your mouth is the same because the last 4 times you've watched the team, they've been blown out. And again, logically, we can look at that and go, it doesn't really matter that they got blown out. Those 2 preseason games and a regular season game, that doesn't matter. But the thing is, we love the Browns. We love them helmets. We love them uniforms. We love watching the Browns play football. We get excited for watching the Browns play football, no matter if the game matters or not, preseason or not. And when you are excited, no matter if the result matters or not, you want to see the thing you're excited for win. And when that thing does not win and does not even appear competitive in that moment, you feel bad. You don't like it. It gives you a bad feeling. It gives you a bad taste. I think that's a good chunk of what's going on here. I don't think that's the whole thing. I think it's a good chunk. The last 4 times you watched the Cleveland Browns play, they got blown out. You don't feel great because the last 4 times you sat down to watch a Cleveland Browns game, no matter what the actual consequence of it, you didn't feel good after watching those games. Last time the Browns made you feel good was week 17 on Thursday Night Football. It's been a long time since the Cleveland Browns have played a football game and made you feel good. I think that's a big part of it. Like, I equated the feeling out there in the fan base to how the fan base feels during the regular season when the team loses a few games in a row. Like we usually get to this level of doom and gloom, this level of doom speaking in the comment section, usually when the Browns like lose 3 games in a row. Right? I remember this in 2021 vividly, 2022 vividly. Didn't really happen in 2020. They ain't going any losing streaks in 2023. But even then, there was that streak where they lost a couple of games versus in the West Coast trip. Even in before Joe Flacco had that big game against Jacksonville, you had that feeling there where people gave up or they wanted to give up and they felt like the Browns. And it usually coincides with losing a bunch of games in a row. And the Browns, we don't really think about it like this because it's not how it is. Browns have lost the last 4 times. You've seen them out there. And that matters. I think that's why we kind of feel down. Even the most logical of us, even the most reasonable of us. Hell, it's happening to me where I'm like, man, I don't know why I don't feel good about the team. I try to be as logical as anybody could be about the Browns, right? That's what I do every day on this channel. But even I'm like, yeah, don't feel right. Something don't feel right. Hey, the roster. I think the roster is pretty good. I think the Browns have a good chance to fix whatever's wrong with them in the first 5 weeks of the season. All of that stuff is fine. Like even Deshaun Watson, I feel pretty good about Deshaun Watson. Like I'm not there with where a lot of people are. And I think Deshaun Watson fatigue is the second part of this dude. People are fatigued by Deshaun Watson. Even people who didn't mind trading for Deshaun Watson in the first place are fatigued. They've had to talk about Deshaun Watson instead of watch Deshaun Watson more than they would want to be. They've had to be in conversations about Deshaun Watson that they don't want to be in. And it's given them fatigue. Like they're tired of it. I think that's a good sense of what's going on. People are tired of waiting for Deshaun Watson to look like Deshaun Watson. And since we have not been able to get excited about what Deshaun Watson's doing on the field because of the whole shoulder thing and him not playing in the second preseason game, and now people are questioning whether he's going to play in the third. And I find that part interesting because, like, it's not like the Browns said he was up in the air for the third preseason game. It was just like people's immediate reaction that he was up in the air. I don't think he's up in the air. I think he's going to play. I think that's never changed. He practiced full time the day after he sat out a walkthrough for general soreness. I think we've kind of did it to ourselves this time with the whole general soreness thing, because I don't think the plan was ever for him not to play. Like, I know Kevin said we're going to pay attention to all facts, but Kevin says that about every decision he could make. Like, that's just how Kevin talks. So I think we did this one to ourselves. I think the reason we are speculating if he will play is because we decided to speculate if he would play, not because there's actual reason to speculate. That being said, I think people are tired of the speculation. I think people are tired of the constant conversation and the constant arguing over if Deshaun Watson plays well or if he doesn't, how good can he be? People just want him to play and know what it is. And if it's not good, they want to move on. If it's good, okay. People will find a way to deal with it. But I think people are fatigued. It's been so much conversation about hypothetically what he could do. And I think a lot of people are rightfully burnt out on all that conversation with Deshaun Watson. I think that's fair. So I think that's the second part that lines up into it. The third part that lines into this is a lot of people coming to the crushing realization that the Browns offensive line from 2020, not the offensive line in 2024. People have their questions about Jed Wills, and right now Jed Wills is not out there. So now people have questions about Jed Wills' backup, and that guy got hurt. And now people are wondering, well, is it going to be Jermaine Ifedi? What's the plan? Who are we going to start with? So there's a little bit of panic about a position. I don't think once the season starts, we're going to be worried about the tackle position because Jed or Jack's probably going to be healthy by then. And you're going to start one of those two, probably Jed Wills. But I think that adds to it. I think a lot of how people feel about the Browns right now has less to do about who the Browns actually are or project to be, and more to do about things that surround the Browns. The fact that it's been 4 times that you've watched the Browns and they've gotten blown out. The last 4 times you sat down. to watch the Browns. That doesn't make you feel good. That you don't like that. The fact that this preseason specifically has been lacking in big plays, big offense. And I think a lot of people are concerned because part of what the Browns did in the offseason was get a new offensive coordinator to be more explosive. And so far, haven't seen a ton of points on the board. Now, a good chunk of the reason of that is because the Browns are playing their third and fourth string offenses. It's probably going to be the reason that they're not scoring that many points. But that don't matter when you're watching this. Also factor this in. We watch Brown stuff every day. Me and you. If you're here, you watch Brown stuff every day because you know about me existing, right? So we're a bit more tapped in than the average fan. If you're the average fan who doesn't listen to 25 Browns podcasts, watch 2 to 10 Browns YouTubers, you would watch the preseason game, think it's a normal preseason game, the Browns are doing the normal stuff during the preseason game, and you'd be horrified. Because you think you're watching the backups. You think you're watching, like, players who are going to play for this team. You're not. But, like, what other impression are you supposed to get? You watch the preseason all the time. You know that the preseason's backups mainly. You know who the starters are. You don't see them out there. But you see these guys out there, you're like, are these the rotational guys? Like, if somebody gets injured, are these guys going to have to play? If I didn't know any better and I had to watch Siaki Ika play 45 snaps, I'd be terrified too. I think that lays into it, right? I think the environment is negative right now because the team hasn't produced a positive result since that Thursday night game all the way back in, like, what, December? That was the last time you watched the Browns game and were happy at the end of it. And I think that's really the biggest thing that factors in. Deshaun Watson fatigue. You haven't watched this team make you feel good in a while. They ain't had a lot of highlights in preseason and locked down camp so much. We ain't seen that many highlights in training camp. Camp's been locked down. You haven't had enough access to it. A lot of people who could have gone or used to be able to go with relative ease in years past can't even figure out where the link is to get tickets. Access has been cut off. The Browns don't do an in-stadium scrimmage. It's an easy one. They don't even do that. I think that factors in. I think there are decisions that the Browns have made as an organization. I think there are decisions that the Browns have made as a franchise. Also consider the fact that this offseason we've been talking about another huge change to the Cleveland Browns. Them potentially becoming a dome team. And while I'm on the side of becoming a dome team, there are a lot of people who don't want to be a dome team. For whatever reason. They don't want to be a dome team, whether they feel like it degrades the brand of the Cleveland Browns, or it just doesn't feel like the Browns, or it ruins whatever they feel like is a home field advantage for the Cleveland Browns. I don't like it. So that's another thing that could have happened that the Browns did that people don't like. You've got news of your second round pick being arrested. So another thing you got to follow that's not football. On top of your quarterback. On top of what happened with Perion Winfrey last year. With what happened with Isaiah McGuire. And I can see how some people are tired of dealing with this stuff. Tired of hearing about this stuff. And then you go and sit and watch the Browns and they get beat by 20. It ain't the first team. It ain't Myles Garrett getting beat by 20, but still. You watching the Browns, you excited for them helmets, you excited for them uniforms, and then you see them uniforms get beat by 20. It don't feel good. It don't feel good. I think all of this has come and combined and created a soup that tastes a little bitter. Now, I'm not just about pointing out problems. I want to offer some solutions for this year and for next year. So what could the Browns do to up the vibes? Play really well in this preseason game. Get a win, right? Win this preseason game. Let somebody sit down to watch the Browns at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's another thing that makes this whole thing feel weird, right? Let somebody sit down at 10 a.m. and just have a good time. Be excited about what they want. Play well in this preseason game. You'd be surprised how much that would do for you. If the Browns play well in this preseason game, all of a sudden people are going to remember that the Browns have all pros all over the defense and all pros all over the offense. That they are a team that went 11-6, despite 26% of the salary cap being on injured reserve. They need something to feel good about. Browns need to deliver that. They need to make people feel better. Browns really want to change the vibe up. They could go sign like Charles Leno Jr. or something like that. Give people a backup tackle to be excited about, or make an announcement along those lines. But that's really all the Browns can do to up the vibes for this offseason. It is what it is until week 1 against Dallas. Obviously, if they beat Dallas in week 1, it ain't going to matter what the offseason vibes are going to be. We're going to be pretty excited. But for next year, if they want to avoid fan sentiment getting this low, if they want to avoid fan enthusiasm getting this low, they need to understand that even if the game don't matter, winning and losing still matters to any Browns fan. It's going to affect sentiment. I think the biggest reason, it might not be consciously why people argue against it, but I think it's subconsciously why people do not like the ideal of sitting your starters when you've clinched a playoff game. The reason people don't like that is because we just don't like watching our team lose any games. And when you do that, you basically say, hey, you're going to watch our team lose a game for strategic reasons. Now, it could pay off, it could not. But there is a price. And I think enough people who are for it, and even myself at times, don't acknowledge that. The price is that you got to watch the Browns lose when they do something strategic like that. I get wanting to be safe in the preseason. I get that you're not going to try to win in the preseason, but you got to give people something to get excited about. You got to show them some of the young players and some of the players that you expect to have somewhat of a role. You can't keep them in the dark and think that people are just going to blindly be excited. Open up training camp. Have way more open dates. Joint practices should be public. Bring back the stadium game. Why did that go away? I don't mind them going to Greenbrier for a week, but you know what? You should put a couple stands up in Greenbrier. If somebody wants to travel down there to see the Browns in West Virginia, or if you're a Browns fan down there in the southern part of Ohio or in West Virginia, you should be able to go watch the Browns that week. Open up all of this. Let people come to Greenbrier. Have a stadium practice when you come back to Greenbrier. You ain't even got to do a full scrimmage. Just get to the stadium so you can have a bunch of people come down for free, get excited about the Browns. Let people watch the practices at Berea again. Stop locking it down. Y'all have been turned down all the dates. I remember when Browns camp used to be like 4 weeks, be open 4 days a week, and you didn't even need a ticket to show up. You could just show up. Come in. It's like a festival. It's like a street fair. Now you need tickets. They said that was temporary because of Johnny Manziel. That never went away. Now you need tickets. Now the tickets are harder to get. Now you can only get the tickets if you're season ticket holders. Then it became, now you can only become the ticket, you can get the tickets if you're a select season ticket holder and you know somebody. It don't need to be this locked down. If a regular person wants to take their family to go see the Browns, it shouldn't be that hard. Stop locking down all this stuff. There is no on-the-field benefit to this. Let the people watch the team. Let the people watch the team during joint practice. Let the people watch the team down in Greenbrier. Bring the team to the stadium before the preseason starts. Let them see Deshaun Watson throw the ball in the stadium. Just let them see it. So they don't got to worry about clips on social media or beat reporter. They can have a friend who went and say, hey, Deshaun rang that thing. These are things that I don't just think would fix the vibe, but would make it so that practice has more of a punch to it for the people on the field. Because we tend to think about these things as things that only help us as fans. No, that's not true. You think these players aren't going to be excited to be at a stadium practice with 40,000 people in the stadium going crazy? You think that's not going to provide a better environment for a practice, that this is going to be something that gets somebody up through the downs of camp? You think players hate it when they go out for a regular practice in Berea and there's like 8,000 people out there and all these kids reminding them of why they love doing what they do? You think that's a bad thing? During joint practice, you want to get the volume going. You want to get the intensity up. Don't nothing get the intensity up like people being there. You think the Vikings aren't going to practice harder if fans are there? You think the Browns aren't going to practice? You think the quality of work isn't going to be higher if fans aren't there? If fans are there, it is. Fans are going to make this thing better. They're going to provide the volume. They're going to provide the energy. And these players need energy during practice. Fans are here for a reason. You can't just shut them out and expect them to make noise week one. Got to do a better job at that. Got to do a better job with fan engagement. It's been bad this year. This offseason, I think fan engagement's been terrible from the Browns organization standpoint. They got to get better at that. But that's why I think we fixed the vibe. That's why I think the Browns could do better as an organization. And I think that's why a lot of us feel how we feel about the Cleveland Browns. Now, it's important to remember, it's not really going to change what the result is for this team. And I think this team's going to put together a good result. But we feel the way we feel for reasons. And I think the Browns should do something to address that next offseason, because there's no reason for access to be this limited for fans. And there's no reason that fans should be this in the dark about a football team that this city pours billions of dollars into. And oh, by the way, you're asking us to pay for half of a new stadium. Well, if you want a new stadium, if you want people to even consider paying for it, maybe you should consider that they need a little bit more access to the team, right? That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.